Good evening, brethren. Welcome to the Legion of Ally podcast. I'm your host, Scotty Sheepwolf Sunwolf. I hope you all had a badass and blessed week. Alright, so tonight is part 4 of Defending God, which is an expansion to the Evangelism series. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, you can contact me at scottyblade99@gmail.com. It's scottyblade99@gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on Facebook. Also, you can request to join up the Badass Christian Militia Facebook group. Also, my website, www.legionofally.com, is officially up and running. Alright, let's open up a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we're just here together to have fellowship, get to learn your ways, Lord. Lord, I'm blessed to be able to have this platform to speak your word. Lord, I ask you to protect this group, or my group, this podcast, all the listeners, Lord. Keep and bless them. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen. So, on last week's episode, we finished up the examination of the first witness, Christianity. And wow, did it get intense. First, she gave us insight on the spiritual revelation that Yeshua started, and how mindsets have been fundamentally transformed by his message and works. Then she explained how Yeshua confronted the religious authorities and called out their hypocritical behavior. But because of the wickedness in their hearts, they refused to receive correction. Instead, they devised plans to silence Yeshua, and their final resolution was to ultimately murder the Savior of the world. Also, she made great comparisons between Lucian Penta and the Pharisees. She used eight woes of the warnings that Yeshua gave to the Pharisees in the book of Matthew. The main point she wanted to make was that both scheme and plot to stop the truth. Lastly, she mentioned that the absolutely mind-blowing concept of forgiveness and how Yeshua, while being falsely accused and brutally beaten unjustly, he didn't show spite or anger towards his tormentors. In fact, he asked the Father to have mercy upon them. Alright, beloved, let's move on to the examination of the plaintiff. Let's get into the mind of the accuser and uncover what atheism has such a beef with the defendant and the Christian faith. Defense Attorney Sheepwolf, you may proceed with your examination, Judge Grimm announced. Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Allen Atheist to the stand. I kindly requested, with this bold move, Mr. Penta threw a vicious scowl in my direction. Yet his displeasure just proved to me I was on the right track. With the petty mind games out of the way, I got straight to business and addressed the plaintiff Mr. Atheist, I'd like to ask you some questions concerning the defendant. Are you willing to answer all that I ask of you? Yes, Mr. SheepWolf, Allen responded. I appreciate your cooperation, Mr. Atheist. I responded in kind. Alright, let's begin. For you, what does it mean to be an atheist? To me, atheism means total freedom. Freedom from the bondage of guilt. It allows people to create their own destiny without backlash. All lifestyles are accepted. No questions asked. Why should there be limitations set upon our species? Evolution at its core is a limitless concept. So why should I put myself in bondage? I truly believe that the invention of religion has brought our species low. It has taken away our liberties. All religion has done is set boundaries and enforce what it deems to be appropriate behavior. Why should a group of mentally ill people get to decide the rules of morality for all of us? I should be able to dictate what is right and wrong in my own life. I answer to no one, and especially not to an imaginary God. And that, Mr. SheepWolf, is my take on atheism. Thank you for enlightening us on the concepts of atheism. I replied, Mr. Atheist, what are your feelings on Christianity, specifically, if I may ask? Allen replied with, honestly, out of all the religions of the world, Christianity is the one that my people contend with the most. Why is that, I asked? My answer is simple. Because it's the largest religion in the world. And I hate how much control it has over our government. It's a symbol of oppression and bigotry. The goal of atheism is to restore the balance, and to create a utopia devoid of all religious authority. I refuse to obey the idolatry. I refuse to obey the ideology of organized religion. And I will not be intimidated by hellfire and talk of judgment. Mr. Atheist, if I'm hearing you correctly, basically you're saying that Christianity is a dictatorship that needs to be removed from society. Do you agree with that conclusion? Yes, Mr. SheepWolf. You are correct, Allen replied. With this insight that you have revealed before the court, I now have a better understanding of why this trial is taking place. I just wanted to gather your side of the story, because so far we just heard the prosecution speak. Mr. Atheist, for the purpose of clarification, does the prosecution match up with your statements? Is he speaking on your behalf, or is he speaking for himself? Before Allen could respond to my question, Lucian intervened. Your Honor, why am I included in the defense's examination? I've had enough of the disrespect. Why does it seem like I'm the one being placed on trial? Mr. Penta, calm yourself, I yelled. I'm just making sure that there isn't any confliction or any conflicting information between the plaintiff and the prosecution. When I said that I aim to provide a fair and honest trial, I meant it. Now, Mr. Penta, if you're finished with your outburst, I'd like to continue my examination of the plaintiff. Mr. Atheist, the prosecution has stated that you accuse the defendant of the following: allowing evil, promoting slavery, starting wars, and placing sickness on the innocent. Are these your claims? Yes or no? Yes, Mr. SheepWolf. I truly believe that the defendant is a murderer, and the Bible is nothing but lies, made up fairy tales to manipulate the masses. The Bible is full of death, and the defendant perpetrated acts of violence upon innocent civilians. He even killed children to get revenge. Killed off inhabitants of lands that he wanted to steal. He struck men dead just because they questioned leadership. Killed a king for wanting to be a priest. With the worst crime of all, he destroyed 2 cities just because the inhabitants lived sinful lifestyles. Let me repeat that. Because the inhabitants lived gay lifestyles and engaged in sodomy. I hate God, and all those Christians that follow him got to rot. Allen continued, Mr. SheepWolf, are we done with examination? Am my statement satisfied your curiosity yet? Oh, by the way, Mr. SheepWolf, next time you try to get in between Mr. Penta and I, there's going to be trouble. I'm only going to say this once. I have complete trust in Prosecutor Mr. Penta's ability to win this case and to put a stop to Christianity once and for all. Sensing the anger in his voice, I immediately tried to defuse the situation. So there was no need for hostility. This is part of the process. And yes, I'm done for now. I got everything I need. I just need to understand your mindset. You're right. Both you and Mr. Penta speak as one. Alright, brethren, I'm going to stop here so I can take a break. I will continue the story after we get a little metal in our systems. Tonight's featured soundtrack is titled Smile, which is off of Operation Takeover. The 3rd EP released from Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh.
Why don't you smile for me? S-M-I-L-E. Now follow me. Go. S-M-I-L-E. Why don't you smile for me? S-M-I-L-E. Now follow me. Well, basically, you know what's going on in my mind. Well, get to the right. You think you can call this my bad side? You care if you don't know the truth. Do you think everyone should be like you? Don't make me wrong, don't make me right. But I don't wanna smoke. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy. It doesn't mean that I'm half dead. It doesn't mean that I've got issues living in my head. You don't know the way I'm feeling or the way you live my life. Don't tell me to. Become your latest obsession. I think you've got the wrong impression. How can you care if you don't know the truth? Do you think everyone should pay on you? Look at me now, straight from the mouth. If I don't want to turn my frown upside down. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy. It doesn't mean that I'm half dead. It doesn't mean that I've got issues spinning in my head. You don't know the way I'm feeling, or the way you live my life. Don't tell me to. Don't tell me to. Okay, everyone settle down. Boys and girls, are you ready? Lulu, are you ready? I know I'm ready. Maggie, are you ready? Maggie? Don't you smile for me. Go. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy. It doesn't mean that I'm half dead. It doesn't mean that I've got issues spinning in my head. You don't know the way I'm feeling, or the way you live my life. Don't tell me to. Don't tell me to. Why don't you smile for me?
Okay, purchase options are linked in the description. Alright, brethren, let's get back to the story. Alright, thank you, Your Honor. No more further questions for the plaintiff. However, Your Honor, may I have a moment with one of the witnesses? I'll allow it, but make haste, Mr.SheepWolf. You have five minutes, stated Judge Graham. I immediately responded with, Your Honor, I would like to call Mr. Agnostic to the stand. Mr. Agnostic, I believe that you are the most important part in this trial because you hold no bias. Would I be correct to say that you are support the plaintiff or the defendant thus far? In all honesty, Mr. SheepWolf, how can I think aside when I can't get a straight answer from anyone? Neither side seems to offer clarity. One side screams God is a warmongering and genocidal tyrant. The other states that God is merciful and that he desires to have a relationship with us. So which is it? Does he want to annihilate mankind through sadistic means, or does he truly desire to save mankind? Understanding his frustration, I offered words of comfort. Mr. Agnostic, that is why I'm here. My duty is to offer clarity. I'll do everything in my power to remove the confusion from this trial. The way I see it, you're the victim of tragic misinformation. Today, I promise you, the truth will be revealed to the world. Mr. SheepWolf, I don't need your sympathy. I just need the evidence to do the talking. With that challenge, I simply smiled. I responded with, Mr. Agnostic, it'll be my pleasure to shed light on the falsehoods that riddle the plaintiff's accusations. If our presentation isn't satisfactory, if I fail to exonerate the defendant of all wrongdoing, I will quit my services for good. I'll be holding you to that bold statement, Mr. SheepWolf. Lucian snickered. This crusade you are on is pointless. Lucia continued. The odds are against you and the defendant. I have your client dead to rights. The plaintiff is the victim here. And you have the nerve to say that the witness is a victim? Who do you think you are to question the sincerity of Mr. Atheist? Falsehoods, really, Mr. SheepWolf. It's funny that you would say that, considering Christianity's the biggest hoax that exists. Mr. Penta, you speak out of turn. Control yourself, Judge Grimm demanded. Lucy replied, I understand, Your Honor. I just can't stand by while Mr. SheepWolf switches the narrative. You just can't stomach my witness examination process, can you, Mr. Penta? The more you interrupt, the longer I'll be here. Mr. SheepWolf, your time is up, Judge Grimm announced. Your Honor, please grant me more time. I would have been done by now if it wasn't for Mr. Penta's unprofessional outburst, I explained. Request granted, Mr. SheepWolf. You have 1 minute. I acknowledge that I made haste. Members of the court, Mr. Agnostic is a true victim here. This world tries to pressure people, just like him, into joining sides. It's as if agnostics are not allowed to think for themselves. The masses run roughshod over them, forcing them to accept the propaganda that they shove down their throats. All the while they are screaming, hold up. Why do you withhold information from me? You tell me that your way is the truth, yet you offer me no proof that it is. Mr. Agnostic said himself, he is unable to choose a side because neither is offering up answers. Instead, all they do is argue and bicker with each other. Can we blame him for having reservations towards the plaintiff and the defendant? In all honesty, this trial is a result of atheism and Christianity coming to blows, and Mr. Agnostic is caught in the crossfire. Today, this feud ends once and for all. Mr. SheepWolf, your time is up, Judge Grimm announced. My anger was kindled, and I needed to call Mr. Penta out on this hindering outburst. Mr. Penta, you can stand there and heckle me to your heart's content. I will not be moved by your backbiting and underhanded tactics. I stand by my words. You seem pretty confident in yourself. Why don't you put your job on the line? That's enough, Mr. SheepWolf, Judge Grimm ordered. Don't be absurd, Mr. SheepWolf. I'll not play along with your daredevil antics, Lucy replied. I thought you would say that, Mr. Penta, I stated. Justice and truth means everything to me. If I fail my duty to uphold those principles, then I'm unworthy to be a voice for the innocent. My question to you, Mr. Penta, is what do you ultimately stand for? Do you stand for justice? Or do you stand for a paycheck? Do you stand for the truth? Or do you stand for the ends justify the means? Do you work for yourself? Or do you put the needs of others first? If you're truly a man of integrity, then you would place decorum and fairness above your own personal interests. Mr. SheepWolf, This is your final right to stand down. Judge Grimm threatened. This is why I can't stand you Christians. You just won't get off your soapbox. How dare you preach to me about ethics? Now you listen to me, Mr. SheepWolf. As far as I see it, you're just a Justice League reject. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, kid. It makes you think that you can take on a man of my caliber. I don't make you respect me, but I can see just only one way to make you submit. Mr. SheepWolf, I know that you long to protect the faith. You base your entire life around to defend it. All I need to do is separate you from Christianity. If I can turn you into a laughingstock of the faith, it will cast you out on the streets. I will prove to you that God hates you. Your kind teaches that God's love and mercy. What a joke. Alright, Reverend, I think I'll stop here for tonight. Anyway, beloved, slight plot twist went down in this episode. I put extreme emphasis on one of the witnesses, Anthony Agnostic. I guess my goal is to reach those in the middle of the argument, the undecided. I can desire to pull them into the faith before they are swayed by the atheists. I personally have dealt with the atheists, and it's absolutely miserable. So I'm changing my strategy. My new target is agnosticism. Might be easier soil to plant seeds in. Don't get me wrong, I want to see atheists come to the truth, hopefully. I'll offer enough scriptural evidence to debunk the accusations against the faith. Part 5 to 6 is when the track actually begins the real meat of the word. Right now, I'm just trying to get all sides involved. We need to investigate all views so we can reach a verdict. Everything will be weighed in the balance. May Yahweh bless you, brethren. Until next time, stay frosty and slay on. Hoorah.